Welcome back. This is another 3 interesting philosophical ideas to think about. If you missed the last episode, don't worry, you can always rewatch it. It probably is gonna exist on the internet forever. So let's begin. Number 1. God is a human. So this goes back to the last episode where I covered the idea that we could be in a simulation. And if that is to be true and this creator of ours is a human, that would mean that God is a human. Now the interesting part about this is that does that explain why sometimes there's earthquakes, tsunamis and so on? Maybe this creator of ours is simply a flawed human just like us, and that's why they treat some of us like Sims characters. You do epic pranks in Sims, and the guy who made us does epic pranks like tsunamis. Yeah, not very epic now, is it? It also brings a whole nother meaning to being created in God's image, because if God is a human, then surely we are created in His image. Also, it's fun to think about how, if we look at the Christian view that God sent His Son into the world, then maybe with some future technology, if God is a human, they could send someone into a simulation with some crazy technology, and that could mean that a human from their world could come into our simulation world as a human and do all kinds of stuff. That's just ideas to think about, and there's not really some convincing proof that this is the exact case, and it definitely does not fit the traditional idea of a God, which would be an omni-being that is omnipresent, omniscient, all-powerful, and so on. Number 2. Dream world. Staying on the topic that if this world that we exist in is not real, let's look at the idea that if we live in a dream. And you see that it's kind of interesting to think that every time we go to sleep and we see a dream, we in a sense create a whole new world inside that dream. And well, why couldn't this world simply be a dream? I mean, we all have experienced a dream and it feels real, and it is in a sense a world that you exist in, so why couldn't this be one? It's definitely an interesting thing to think about. And hey, maybe one day you'll wake up and you'll wake up to reality. Or maybe every time you go to sleep, you actually are not seeing a dream, but you're seeing reality, and this is a dream. You see, there's a lot of interesting thoughts to have here. Of course, there's not a lot of good evidence for this, and it's just speculative in nature, but it's interesting to think about if you like that sort of thing. Number 3. AI happiness dystopia. I feel like a lot of these have been related to technology, but let's keep going. This one is an interesting idea that, well, if this sort of an AI dystopia were to happen, it would not be how you think it would look. There would be no Terminators walking around, no Skynet, but more like this. Imagine that we as humans achieve the AI singularity, meaning that the AI is in a sense conscious and is so intelligent that it can rebuild itself to be more intelligent constantly, achieving in a sense this infinite wisdom. Now let's say we're smart as humans and we're like, we don't want this to get out of control, so how about we write a code that says this AI's number 1 job is to value human life and to value human existence and make sure that humans exist for as long as possible. Now, some genius says, well, whoa, what if that AI locks us all up and decides that because it's so much more intelligent than all humans ever could be, that we should never make decisions, we should have no freedoms, and it's just gonna decide everything and do everything for us, and we're just gonna be in some cages alive. But that's not a life worth living. So let's also write a code that it needs to value human happiness and fulfillment. Aha! we've dodged the problem, right? But what if that AI now decides that, well, human happiness is dopamine? So we actually get back into those cages, being locked in the matrix, and then we simply get dopamine pumped into our brains constantly. And it's just like, well, you feel good, but there's no life fulfillment in the sense that you have no freedoms. There's nothing that you can actually do. You can just be alive. And that's not really a life you want to live, even if it might feel good because you're getting dopamine pumped in your brain. But to the AI, it might be like, hey, I'm doing my job. I'm keeping humans alive and I'm keeping them happy because they have insane dopamine levels. And so, if an AI dystopia will come, it's probably not gonna look like everything's burning and Terminator coming around. T-1000 shooting a minigun, Arnold and stuff. No, it could be a lot more boring, but maybe a lot more sinister. But hey, what do you think? Will an AI dystopia come to existence? Are we gonna prevent it? Can such a thing even happen? And if such a thing happens, what will it look like? Will we be trapped in cages and having dopamine pumped in our brains? Or maybe T-1000s will come around and they will look like Arnold. I mean, that would be kinda cool though. But anyway, thanks for watching and hope you got some new ideas to think about in your philosophical thinkings, even if it's just for fun and not taking it too seriously.